Hello, everybody. This is Gynarchic Awakening here. It's sort of like I don't really want to make this video, but at the same time, I sort of feel like I have an obligation to do it. Why might that be? Well, let's put it this way. When I see so many people saying something and there's like no opposition to this statement in any way. There's no like kind of context where maybe this statement could lead somebody down the wrong path. I feel like I have to intercede on behalf of the other people who either don't have enough experience or who don't know any better. Because if I don't say something, I feel like it'll never get brought up. And this is part of what makes me a black sheep in the Gynarchy community. And it's because I operate by a different kind of set of values, of ethics and morals than other people do. It's just obvious. Now, one of these statements that people will come up with in the Gynarchy community is it's something along the lines of you should just listen to and do what the women want. You know, don't think for yourself. Uh, like this is, and I remember one time when I was sharing my template, I had somebody in the community tell me that you're not supposed to think, you're just supposed to do. The only problem is my brain's not structured that way. So obviously that isn't going to work. I'm not compatible with every single person. And yet, what happened in my personal life? I serve a mistress and she's perfectly fine with me making these videos, writing my templates, doing the things that I do. Even the previous domina I served was perfectly okay hearing my input, listening to the ideas I had. So this kind of like don't think for yourself thing, I think that really just depends on your background and your disposition. If you're like some average guy, you're not a deep thinker or anything, then yeah, I think that there might be some kind of merit to that, especially if you end up with a woman who's more intellectual than you are, then by all means, you should probably uh, do what she says. However, I have had experiences in my personal life that have contradicted it. So this whole like submissive men should just do whatever the women want, shouldn't think for themselves. This kind of I used to have this thinking, you know, when I was in my relationships, especially my previous one, and it led me to personal ruin. So before people judge me harshly, you should understand that not everybody is a good person. There are good, I find in general that women tend to be better than men in many areas. However, there are those individuals within the community who are personality disordered who will get you into a heap of trouble that's very difficult to get out of without being without you won't come out unmaimed. I don't know how else to explain that to you, but I can try. So the first problem with this kind of thinking is what happens when you don't know anything about the community. This is especially true if you're from a conservative household, which I was. I didn't know about the existence of munches. I didn't know anything about, I didn't even know what the community was. I didn't know the diversity of political opinions and ideas. So when I first got into the community, I thought that I was dealing with a woman at first who was just telling me what to do. And I was like, okay, well, she wants me to give her this stuff or whatever so that she can buy sex toys or something. I wasn't thinking deeply about it because I adhered to this ideology, right? Do whatever she says. Well, what happens when the person who's telling you this may not even be a woman, is in fact a scam artist? Should you just be doing whatever the person says? And then it turns out it was a scam artist. I had to call a police officer and report that I'd been scammed, and I lost hundreds of dollars because I foolishly believed that buying those sex toys or whatever, that was all just part of the relationship. I didn't realize I was being deceived because I was naive, I was ignorant, and I was young. I didn't have any support from the community. I didn't have people telling me what to look out for. I was literally a fish in a new pond. So that was the first time that I got into hot water, but it would not be the last. Then I had I had sort of a relationship, what you would call a DS relationship, about I want to say a year and a half to 2 years ago, with an individual who I'm not going to name because again I don't feel like getting into legal trouble. I'm not going to direct any hate towards this person. I'm just going to talk about my experiences. So, this whole like just do whatever they want, right? Right? That's the thinking. Okay. What happens when the person that you're serving uh, wants you to engage in criminal behavior, wants you to associate with an infamous financial criminal, and not just any criminal, like a major financial criminal, somebody who's known around the world, or somebody who at least is known in the United States. So what happens then? What happens when your domina or your mistress is pushing you into some kind of business relationship with somebody that she knows and that you know is a criminal? And what happens when that person is telling you, encouraging you to lie on applications to certain institutions so that you can get accounts? Now, thankfully, I never actually picked a single stock. So there is that to be grateful for. And I also ended the relationship partially because of that, because I didn't want to be associated with an infamous criminal. I felt horrible about it, but of course I was also threatened. That was another thing too. Like, just do whatever they want, right? Well, what happens when that person that you're serving threatens you and tries to gaslight you into saying, "Oh no, 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 it's you know that these are my ethics. I'm totally not like that, but I'd kill you, or I'd have someone kill you. I have the mind to get myself out of anything." I'm paraphrasing here, but that was essentially the quote. And that had to do with the business criminal that she wanted me to follow through on and commit to insofar as that personal business was concerned. So not only is there criminal behavior going on in terms of dealing with a criminal, not only is there deceit involved, in other words, I'm being asked to do something I don't want to do, which is lie and misrepresent myself. But then to go beyond that point, to enter into the realm of something that would actually get you about 4 or 5 years in prison, a legitimate death threat carries with it 5 years in penitentiary, about 5 years. Now, of course, I didn't pursue that because I don't think jail and prison is a good environment for that individual. And I'm never going to pursue that avenue, no matter what the person says or does. Again, as long as I'm alive, that's my attitude. Maybe it's naive, maybe it's ignorant, but I'm not going to do that. But this is what happened with me in my personal life, right? Oh yeah, just do whatever they say, even if it means endangering your life, possibly in getting involved in serious legal trouble if you do follow through on these commitments. And then finding out, of course, that the person themselves is committing a crime with regard to you, that they're essentially making an open threat towards you. And of course, they want to play with your mind and try to tell you it isn't what it is. But if it isn't what it is, why even say it? That's because it was what it was. That was just to get out of, that was just so that the person could have some kind of out if it ever went to court. So it's like, but see, I said this here. It wasn't a serious threat. Don't look at me. Yeah, but that's not how I interpreted it. And this person's not the arbiter of context here. So when I saw that, when I was subjected to that behavior, that was bad enough. But what happens if other things go on in the relationship that further put a strain on your ability to just do whatever they say, right? To just follow them no matter what happens if you're being screamed at? What happens if if the other person is just becoming more and more sick to the point where they're no longer able to function properly or to fulfill their role in a way that allows for what I would call a more even relationship. What happens if they have to struggle to even do basic things? These do put strains on any relationship, especially if you're trying to make things work, despite the fact, because my biggest problem was I was always trying to especially at the beginning, I was trying to rationalize the behavior away. I was trying to tell myself it's because of the situation, it's because of the person. I was always in my head trying to give them every break that I could. And I didn't realize that this is what happens to people who victims of abuse, which is they try to rationalize away their abuse, the conduct of the abuser. Um, they try to say, okay, it's not this thing or it's not that thing. Um, they always try to pin it on something else, like it's not malice, it's not anger, it's not hate or whatever. And I don't even know to this day if it really was. What I do know is that this is how I was treated. I had the mentality of just do whatever they say. Don't try not to think too much for myself. Just let them do the thinking. And I paid the price. There was a point of the relationship where they were encouraging me to engage, and I had to look it up because they didn't want to even look it up for themselves. I had to look it up and realize, oh, really? So the person told me to try to ship marijuana products across the border to the country that they reside in. The problem, of course, is that's against the law, and that will get you 5 years in penitentiary. And I remember there was, I had a great reluctance about it. I didn't like the way I was being treated because how am I going to serve you and help you if I'm in 5 years in penitentiary? And there always seemed to be this attitude coming across to me, like, if you just do it the way I tell you to do it, you won't be in trouble. Except that just totally misses the point. I don't want to misrepresent myself. I'm like, for example, I didn't know anything about real estate, but on the applications, it was like, oh yeah, you're this big real estate guy. No, I'm not. That bothered me to my core. And then later on, it was like, oh, well, you use this address and not your actual address. So wait a minute. Like, how many lies am I going to have to tell? How many misrepresentations am I going to be asked to make? And how long before I feel that everything I used to be is gone and has been replaced by somebody who doesn't seem to have moral limits, who doesn't really even seem to think that the law applies to them or that they shouldn't care about the law? Even though there was a part of me that was just screaming, you need to cut this off. This is not going to work. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why it wasn't going to work, and it's way more complicated than this. But it also made me feel like the person didn't care about me, wasn't looking out for my well-being. Because because I'm a human being, what if I made a mistake? What if I fucked it up? Oh, well, that's on you. I'm like, no, it's not. It's the responsibility of the dominant in the relationship. They're the ones that are telling me to engage in criminal behavior. And I'm not about that fucking life. I'm not about the thug life, man. Other people, they can be on that thug shit. I'm not one of them. And so this is the kind of behavior, and there were other things too, like talks about if this person was in front of me, I would kill them. That made me feel incredibly unsafe. It did get to a boiling point. And eventually the relationship fizzled out. Actually, I want to say it was more like just one day it just exploded. I just had enough. I got tired of some of the behaviors, like being berated. Despite the words, I didn't feel appreciated. So what do you think? Do you really believe in this 100%? Do you believe that no matter who the dominant woman is, you should just follow her, even if it means she tells you to engage in criminal conduct that could send you to prison and fuck your life up permanently? Do you really think it's a good idea to not think for yourself when you encounter an individual who engages in criminal behavior? This is kind of where I differ, and if I'm hated for it, so be it. But I prefer to serve a woman, and I currently do, who is not engaging in serious criminal behavior and doesn't say the fucked up things that my previous she called herself a domina, said to me and was asking me to do, was pushing me to do.